My name is Vanessa. I'm on the Google for Media team. How many of you were in my colleague Nick's last session on search? Great, excellent. So you kind of have the spiel on Google for Media. Basically, we travel around to newsrooms globally and talk to journalists about Google's various tools, and I focus specifically on mapping. So today we're going to talk about many different tools and features that you can use that I think is great for journalists and storytellers to tell really compelling, and show really compelling visualizations to complement your stories and to really show off the data that you might be working with. So I'm going to be talking about tools. I'm going to show a couple demos if there's time, and also a bunch of examples of how other newsrooms are using these tools as well, hopefully to inspire some ideas and start getting you thinking about how you might want to use these tools as well. Before I begin, has anyone here ever created a custom map before? A couple folks? Okay, excellent. By the end of this, I hope that hopefully when I show you a demo, you'll go out there and you'll start building lots and lots of maps. Before I get into it, my email is mediatools@google.com. That goes right to Nick and I. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out at any time. And that link, g.co/Google Media Alerts, that takes you to a mailing list that our team maintains. And we send content through that we think could be useful to the stories you're working on. So a lot of it's maps related, so new, fresh satellite imagery for breaking news stories, lots of different things. We send a few emails a month. We promise not to spam you, but I'm going to mention that mailing list a couple more times throughout my presentation, so just take note of it if that's something that's of interest to you. So we have recently launched a website called Google Media Tools. Nick and I are very excited it's live. This is a great starting point if you want to just kind of start browsing and researching all of Google's tools for journalists. And on that page, we have a visualize section, and that's where the tools that I'm going to be talking about today are listed. So a great starting point, a great reference point if you forget anything that I mentioned today. Also, before we start talking about maps, I made a tutorial website. So it's at sites.google.com. You can see the link right there. This is an educational website just for you guys that we created. It basically has tutorials on our mapping tools. We give you data. We give you step-by-step guides for how to start using these tools. So please, and we're going to keep this public, so please feel free to reference it at any time. There's a ton of information on there. And I'm gonna play around with it too during this next hour when I start demoing stuff. So anyway, just keep that. I'll flip that link up at the end as well for you. Okay, now let's finally talk about maps. All right. So you guys are familiar with Google Maps. You all have used it once or twice. Excellent. So the simplest way to really use our map, and I like to just start off with this just because I think it's useful for a couple of reasons. If you go to the Google Maps homepage, which, did you guys notice it looks a little different lately? That's exciting. Yes, so last year we launched a preview of a brand new Google Maps. So we built the front end, we rebuilt the back end, no small task, but it's kind of a brand new experience. And so over the last couple weeks, we've been rolling out this new experience to everyone globally. So the map should look a little different if you haven't seen it yet. So on the new Google Maps, there's a little, sorry it's small on the slide, but there's a little gear icon at the bottom of the map. Yes? I can't because my images won't show up. We were kind of sorry about that. We were having a technical issue a minute ago. So sorry, this is as big as I can make it. Anyway, so there's a little gear icon at the bottom. If you click on that, it says embed or share this map. So you can actually take the map that we've created, the interactive map that you are familiar with, and then take a version of that and embed it onto your website. So I see this a lot in breaking news and live blogging situations. You need something, you want to show what is happening in the world, and you can go on Google Maps, do a search for that point on the map, drops a pin down, and you can take that map and just embed that on your site. It's free to do, it's unlimited use, so you can just take that if you just need a little location context for your stories. And you can use the classic map that we have here, and you can also flip it to our satellite imagery map if you've ever explored that. And we're gonna talk a little bit about satellite imagery down the road, but anyway, so those are the two options. So that's the map that we give you. Very simple, and it's just kind of dropping one point on the map. But let's talk about custom maps, because that's where things start to get a little fun. So we've built this map. So think of the tools that I'm about to talk to you about as sort of tools to help you, take the canvas that we've created and start customizing on top of it. Start adding your own data, start adding your own story on top of our map, and then sharing that with your readers. So we have a tool called Google Maps Engine. Is anyone familiar with that? A couple people. So this is this is sort of if you've never built a map before, this is a great place to get started. It's a great tool to kind of learn from, because we tried to make it as easy as possible for everyone in the world to build maps and just kind of share and discover great information, and that's what Maps Engine is. So it's just a custom interactive mapping tool. So I actually made this map because I've been following the Malaysia Airlines coverage. And so you can see here, this is just the editing interface, and I'm gonna actually demo this in a moment. But you can see here I drew some lines, I put some icons. I mean, you've seen these kinds of maps before, but again, you don't need to be a developer to use this tool. And then you can take that map and embed it, that interactive version, on your website. A couple more examples. I'll show you that in a second. So you can do something simple like just one point on the map. There was a volcano eruption recently in Indonesia. So this is just a map kind of just dropping a point, showing an image of where the volcano eruption took place. So this is a Kiev map, but let me show you a local example. I just found it yesterday. So this is, again, there's lots of maps out there about the situation in Ukraine. So this is one where, again, you can kind of click on the map and then have points and images pop up onto the map, and that just lives on Riots' website, so you can interact and readers can kind of start engaging with the information. Here's one from the broadcaster out of South Africa around the Nelson Mandela coverage. They wanted to share with their readers sort of the memorial services, the memorial parade route, information that's important to their readers and to the locals there. So they kind of use that on their website to share that information. Here's another example. This one, Al Jazeera, they wanted to involve their readers in the creation of a map, which is a great idea if you want to engage your audience, kind of get them interested. The Hurricane Sandy, the big storm that passed along the East Coast at the end of 2012, they actually, for the anniversary last year, they asked their readers to hashtag on social media Sandy stories, their thoughts and memories. They collected those up, vetted them, and then plotted the points on the map just kind of with reader quotes, and then again put that on their website. I'm going to skip out of here, actually. How many of you want to see me build a map? Oh, all right. I like that enthusiasm, everyone. Very nice. Okay, so Maps Engine. I just want to show you some examples, because hopefully that'll give you does everyone get some ideas how you might want to apply this tool to your stories? Maybe some stories that you're working on already? Okay, I'll give you an idea here. So if you go to the Google Maps homepage, if you put your cursor in the search bar, it shows you some recent things you search for, and then it says My Custom Maps. So this is how you're going to find Maps Engine if you want to start building again these custom maps. So My Custom Maps. And it's showing you recent maps that I have created, and then it also gives you this big Create button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that because we're going to create a map. So now it's just taking me to the editor for this map. And there's a couple options here. Up at the top, I just have the hand icon selected that allows you to pan and zoom on the map, just like you're familiar with on Google Maps. Then there's this add marker icon. So you can actually take that and put that down on anywhere on the map, and then start editing the info window, adding photos and images. I'm not going to do that though, but you can manually build a map by plotting points down. There's also this draw a line icon, so you can do it like that. Not that you would do that, because that's a horrible line. What does it signify? Anyway, you could do that, or you could draw a neighborhood outline, for instance. Anyway, so we're going to close out of that. Over here, you can add a map title and a description, and I would encourage you to be specific in these titles. I see lots of maps that just say untitled map on them, and I don't know what that means. And someone who looks at maps all day, anyway, so if you're publishing these maps and making them public, we are indexing them. So you can find them on Google. And that's the idea. We want your awesome maps to be found, all over Google, Google properties so that, more readers and eyeballs can find them. So, just put some information in there, give some context, maybe write your organization's name, write, link to the article, stuff like that. So another option that, here, let me show you this. You can, right here, there's a little arrow, if you can see it. If you click on that, we give you different base map options. You can flip it to our satellite imagery map. You can flip it to our terrain map. And then we have lots of different kind of styling options that you can do. Actually, let me click back to the regular one. This is just the classic one. Okay, so what we're going to map today. So I showed you how you can manually start putting points down onto the map, but you can also import a spreadsheet. So I know often that you guys might be working in Google spreadsheets or in Excel and kind of managing your data that way. So if I go over this Google spreadsheet, how many of you are going to be following the World Cup? Yes. Soccer fans in the room? Maybe one or two? Okay, good. Because I will be following the World Cup. So I have in this spreadsheet, and I put this together. It's a small data set, but I wanted to kind of have it organized in a spreadsheet just so I could edit the information. So I have the different venues in Brazil, so the different World Cup venues. I have the city in which the venues can be found. I have capacity numbers, so how many seats for each venue. I also have a status for under construction or finished, which we know is an ongoing story, and the cost for either like building the new venue or the renovations that they're spending on it. So I have a bunch of information here, the most important being I have an address. So in order to build a map from a spreadsheet, you need some location. And it can be a latitude and longitude, it can be a city like I have here, it could be an address, it could be a postal code. There's lots of different things we can read in your spreadsheet, and just making sure that it matches our Google Maps database. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what kind of data we were working with before I imported it. So if I go back to my Maps Engine editor, over here on the left, you can see here that we want to start populating this layer of information on the map. So there's an import button. I'm going to hit import. And so you can see here, there are different options. So you can see My Maps up here. Does anyone remember this feature, My Maps? This is the old kind of version of Maps Engine. This is, if you've ever built a map with Google before, you most likely use My Maps. And that was, so think of Maps Engine as sort of a step up from that experience, just a brand new experience. Same idea though. Don't need to be a developer to build a map. So you could import your old My Maps that you might have made. You can go into Google Drive and pull in your spreadsheets that you have. People using Google Drive here? Okay, good. I was going to give some more context to that. Or you can drag a CSV if you've got a CSV file or an Excel file. So there's a bunch of different ways you can get information in. So I have the CSV here. So I'm just going to drag that in here. So the first thing it's asking me is, in your spreadsheet, what's your column of information for the location information? So I have the address, I have the cities, so that's what I'm going to select because it needs to know where to put the points down. And hit continue. And then it's the title for your markers. So when I click on a point on the map and that info window pops up, what's that bold text going to be at the top of the info of the window? And I want the name of the venue to be at the top. I'm going to hit finish. Okay, and this is when you cross your fingers and you're like, please geocode properly. And geocoding is just taking that city information and finding it on the map. So putting that point down. Yes. I do that every time at my desk when I'm making a map. Yes, geocoding worked. Okay, so, all right, so now it's plotted. So it's taken those cities and it's automatically found those on the map. So you can see here when I click on the point, the information in that row on my spreadsheet is in there. So there we go. You can click on this little, pencil icon. You could edit it, add some photos and images if you wanted to. You can go over here. So like I said, don't call it World Cup 2014 stadiums. Here's a map of the World Cup venues. Hit save. I want to change the base map to maybe I want to do the satellite imagery because maybe I want people to be able to zoom in and kind of see the landscape on the ground of the satellite imagery. All right. And so now you can see here, oh, then styling, of course. So if we go over to all items, over here on the menu on the left, and hover your cursor over here, a little paint can option pops up. And you can start changing, just the classic color of the pin. You can make them stars if you wanted to. You can hit more icons, and we give you a bunch of different options, little icons. Fortunately, we have a little soccer guy, so that's, sorry, football, I probably say football here. A little football guy, and you can hit OK. So now we've changed all the icons. A more interesting thing, actually, would probably be to go up to the style option. So you can, depending on the values that you have in your spreadsheet, you can start mapping based on those values. What do I mean by that? So if you hit style, you can go here, and I want to style by some data that I have in my spreadsheet. So I said I have that status, I've finished and unfinished, or under construction. So if I hit the status button, it's going to divide my points and my colors by finished and unfinished, which again is telling a story, and that's kind of, so maybe I'm covering, this construction or the non-ending construction of these venues, and I want to do something like that. And you can go over here and you can, maybe I'll say finished is green, hover over this and say finished is red, or non-finished under construction is red, and back out of this. So now I have a map of all these stadiums. So obviously what do you want to do? You want to share this with your readers and include it with your story. So what I need to do is I need to go up to this folder icon, and then it says embed on my site. So when I click on that, it says the map's not public. So every time you create a new map with Maps Engine, just like a Google Doc or a spreadsheet, it's private until you explicitly share that document or that map with somebody. So here, I need to go up to the share button because I haven't made my map public. And since you all are familiar with Drive, this should look like a very similar panel to what you've seen before. It's private, so I need to make it public and hit save. Wi-Fi. Hit save. Let me refresh. Oh, okay. So it's been made public. So now when I go back to the folder and I hit embed, we give you an iframe that you can take, copy and paste, and drop into the HTML for your web page. And you can change the height and width of the map depending on the space that you're working with on your article page. But what you could also do is go up to the share button. We also give you a link to the map. So maybe you don't want to embed this on your site, you just want to share it on social media, just kind of send a link to somebody. You could also do that as well. But anyway, so this is Maps Engine. I just wanted to kind of quickly show you how to build a map and get you excited for the World Cup. So that's map. Any questions about Maps Engine? Yes? Great question. So the question was, is it possible to create your own icons to put on the map? Right? Yes. So there are two versions of Maps Engine. There's a light version, and that's the free version. And then there's a pro version, and it's about $5 US a month. And in the pro version, you can add custom icons. So if you don't like the ones in that menu that I showed you, because you like your own, exactly, you like your own little soccer guy, you should, yes. But pro would be the way to do that. Yes?
If you want to show the passage of time, like in 2010, there were this many people in whatever event, and then 11 and 12 and 13 and 14. Is there a way to, from the database, to have the map like move or
to animate?
Animated? That's probably the better technical term.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love where you're going with that. Unfortunately, you cannot do that in Maps Engine. That would require a bit of code, and we'll get to some of our more advanced tools, but no easy way to do that right now in Maps Engine. But that's a great feature request. So I'm making them, give me feedback and feature requests, and that's a large part of my job is hanging out with the product managers and kind of helping them funnel feedback from you guys to them. But unfortunately, no easy way to do that in Maps Engine. Yes?
Can we link icons? For example, I would like to link each stadium to its official website.
Yes, you can put hyperlinks into the info window. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, you can add some links there.
Click on it,
it'll open a new tab and then take people to the website. Yes, great question. Yes?
You showed us how a map can
Yes.
My question is this dynamic? Meaning, can I share the map with friends or clients and then change the Google Doc and it will automatically appear in the map, or I need to do all the cycle again?
Excellent question. So right now, if you update your spreadsheet, it will not be dynamic on the map, but stay tuned shortly to that. We'll have more things to announce on that line down the road, but that's #1 feature request, so definitely carry on that. Was it? Yes?
How can you mark an area and not a specific pin, a specific location?
So the only way to do that right now is to go up to this draw line icon and just manually draw it. In the future, though, we'll be adding ways to kind of import boundary data.
Maps that the address is not very specific, but you see a circle.
Right, so if you, exactly, so you need to go find that data and then import that just as a boundary file, but it doesn't read those files yet, so can't do it on Maps Engine yet. So again, this tool we made, I mean, this just launched very recently, so it's, they have tons of features they want to add to it, and again, it's supposed to be, how can you build a map really quickly and kind of not have to be super advanced to be able to do it. So they're definitely kind of coming at it from that perspective. Okay, all right. So I'm being conscious of time here. So taking a step up from Maps Engine, we have another tool called Google Fusion Tables. Has anyone tried this tool here? So this is really popular among data journalists. So if you're reading up about that, and the data journalism community finds this tool really handy. So essentially, what it allows you to do is take really big spreadsheets, and you can import it into Fusion Tables and then build data visualizations from that spreadsheet. So we're talking about maps today. You can build a map. You can build all types of charts. They give you a bunch of different options, so bar graphs and line graphs, because sometimes the map isn't the way you want to tell the story. So I kind of tried to show you a little bit about what it looks like. I had a big spreadsheet of power plants around Israel, and that's on the left is what you're looking at. It's a Fusion table. It looks very similar to a spreadsheet. And using the interface in Fusion Tables, and again, no programming necessary, you're able to kind of, again, build that visualization with the data. And you access Fusion Tables via Google Drive. I should mention that. So you guys are already ahead of it. You have Drive accounts. Just a couple examples. The Guardian has used Fusion Tables a lot, and they have a really cool blog called the Data Blog, if you haven't seen it, where they kind of talk about tools and data projects that they're working on. So really interesting stuff. This is one. They had a giant spreadsheet from WikiLeaks kind of documenting each of the deaths during the Iraq War, and it was a huge spreadsheet with thousands of rows. And it's sort of like, what are you going to do with that spreadsheet? Are you going to embed that in your web page? Or are you just going to share a link with it? How do you want your readers consuming that? And in that spreadsheet, I believe they had latitude and longitudes of each of the events. So when they brought it into Fusion Tables, and again, Fusion Tables can handle quite a lot of data, they were able to map it and kind of immediately tell a very visual, very impactful story. And then it's interactive, so you could click on each of the dots and kind of dive into more information about each of those events. And again, this map was interactive, and it lived on the article page for the story that they were working on. Is anyone using Google Forms? F-O-R-M. You also find them in Google Drive. So if you can see them in the Drive menu. But basically, Google Forms allows you to create surveys. So on the left, you're looking at a Google form. It's just asking a couple questions, again, around the Nelson Mandela coverage. These forms are great even if you're just collecting information internally on your team, so if you're just sharing information. But also, they use this publicly just to collect memories, thoughts, quotes from their readers. When people fill out that form, it drops into a Google spreadsheet, so it's already formatted for you, and then they imported that into Fusion Tables and got quite a few responses, actually, based on the map. This is just another one out of Washington in the States. They basically were looking at different road conditions around their city, Tacoma, and mapped it, because they had a big vote coming up to put budget behind these fixes on these roads. So they were able to map that, and then their readers could kind of dive in and understand kind of the state of everything and whether they wanted to support budget going to these construction fixes. Kind of hinted at that, boundary data and kind of drawing outlines around something, not just point maps. Here are two maps built in Fusion Tables. On the left is a Firearms map in the Netherlands, so firearms ownership around the country. So you can see the dark red areas are higher ownership percentages, and then the lighter colors, you get the idea. On the right, that is showing, after the German elections last year, the different parties who won, so the two different party colors. So if you have that, that is a whole workshop unto itself, boundary data and finding outlines. But you can see when you have that kind of data, and you have to find it and you have to import it just like you would a CSV or another spreadsheet file. You can see that you kind of start stepping up the complexities and the stories that you're telling on your map. Any questions on fusion tables before I move on? Yes?
Do you use this for the emergency maps? There are emergency maps which are interactive, that the public can go on during a crisis and define problems, solutions. Do you have a tool for that?
Are you talking about our crisis maps?
Talking about the Ushahidi, for example.
Oh yeah. So people use crisis response for all types of things. We do have a team at Google called Google Crisis Response, and they track weather-related events happening globally. I don't know if this is what you're hinting at, but they track tornadoes and hurricanes, typhoons, again, natural disaster-related stuff. And they build maps and share emergency data. They work with sources on the ground, they collect that information, get it out of PDFs and all other funky formats that these agencies put this data in, and try to make it usable and discoverable. So they'll build these kinds of maps. You can see here we had one for the Philippines in November when the typhoon hit. So, and this is a tool they built specifically for crisis mapping and for what they do. They have open sourced the editor for this, but it does host, you can host fusion table layers on it, you can host Maps Engine if you're designing layers of information in those tools, and then they can pull them into these maps. Does that answer your question? I wasn't going to talk about crisis today, but we could certainly talk about that at the end. There's a lot of good stuff that they do here and make information public. And if you're on your laptops or mobile devices, if you just go to google.org/crisismap, they're very mobile-friendly maps. You can actually check them out right now. So that's fusion tables. So Maps Engine and fusion tables are great if you don't have a lot of time, or if you don't really have the resources to really dig into HTML and JavaScript. But we do, if you start kind of getting more advanced in your interactives and want to go this route, we do have something called the Google Maps API, which is just a tool that if you know a bit of JavaScript, the JavaScript API, you can actually do some programming and build some really advanced custom maps. Essentially take our base map that we've created and change everything about it, and change all the colors and add your own data on top of it. So the New York Times is often using the Maps API because they want full control over the experience of that map. So from navigation to colors to styling. So this is just a poverty map that they made recently, highly interactive. Also another German elections one, really boring in a slide, but very interactive when you kind of work on it. The Maps API allows you to add a search box to it. So this is one out of Canada where they mapped oil spills over the past several decades. And you could do a search to see if one of those spills happened near your house. So again, using JavaScript and programming to build a really custom experience. Sorry, just skipping ahead. This is an interesting one. Another New York Times example. We had a tornado pass through Oklahoma last May. And it stretched for many miles. So they wanted to kind of show the damage on the ground. And what they did was, using the Maps API, you could actually tap into our Street View imagery. So you could pull that Street View image. You guys are familiar with Street View? Our street level photography project. So on the bottom panorama is what you would see on Google Maps. So it's just the panorama we collected when we drove through the neighborhood and put that live on Maps. And then the top panorama is an image that they collected with their photographer had a camera on the ground, collected a panorama just with a camera, and then created custom Street View imagery with that same interactive panoramic experience that you have played around with on Google Maps. And then they stitched the two together. So when you took your cursor, you kind of hover over it and kind of compare the before and after. Kind of just a really stunning visual. But I like to show it because you can pull in our flat 2D base map that we have, but you can also take our satellite imagery that we've collected and or that we've put together in our mapping products and our Street View imagery as well. But that's the more advanced Street View, but I do want to mention on the topic of Street View, again, a lot of usage around historical before and after comparisons. So this is just an older example, but I show the simplicity of it because I also know you are on a deadline and you don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. So this is from the London riots. They had an after imagery where a fire took place from a Reuters photographer, so just a still image. Then they went on Google Maps, went to the same address, and got that before Street View image, and just again took a screenshot of it, and then just kind of stacked up the images side by side on their website. And they had about 10 different examples in that same story. So I see a lot of uses of Street View for that kind of thing. On the topic of Street View, you can actually very easily create your own custom Street View and then take that panorama and embed an interactive version of it on your site, which I think has some really interesting immersive kind of possibilities. Does everyone do you want me to show you how to do that? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good, because I like showing it. All right. So remember that Google site I shared with you? I should mention. So anyways, this is a tutorial website, and I showed you Maps Engine. Again, I kind of walk you through step by step how to build Maps Engine maps. But also on here, as well as a bunch of Fusion Tables exercises. So if you're interested in, again, the Fusion Tables tool I showed you, you can also dive into there. But then we also have a Photosphere tab. So Photosphere is a feature in Android phones. So if you have an Android phone, you can very easily take that 360-degree Street View panorama that you're used to seeing just with your phone. Unfortunately, not on iOS yet, guys. Sorry. So anyway, so it's just built into the Android camera app. And so here, I've already taken the Photosphere. I just want to show it to you really quick. And this is just kind of the flat version of it. It's just a JPEG, and I took it in Wyoming because it's beautiful there. So anyway, so I just want to show you this because you can actually go home and practice this later on. So okay, so I've collected this Photosphere. I took my phone, and again, it walks you through it pretty easily. And so we've built this app, and it's called StreetSphere. And it's an app one of our developers built and didn't tell anyone about it. And then I found it, and I was like, why are you keeping this hidden, Chris? Anyway, so you could take this app. So I'm gonna upload this file. So I took that photo with my phone. It saved a flat JPEG to my photo gallery, and I just emailed it to myself like you would any photo. So I have this saved on my desktop already. I'm gonna hit open. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit upload. Hopefully this is fast. And while it's doing that, let me show you what it's doing. So a couple things. So it's built into the Android phone. It's a camera app, and oh, yay. It's downloading a zip file right now. Sorry, it's taking a second, guys, with the Wi-Fi. Oh, perfect. Okay, so I've uploaded my image. It's downloaded a zip file to my hard drive. So I go ahead and click on that, double click on that zip file. Let me open the folder and show you what's in here. So it's that original JPEG that's saved to my phone that I emailed to myself and just upload to that little StreetSphere app. And then it's also saved this little HTML file, which I'm going to open for you. It's just, what is it? 46 lines of code. But the best thing about this code is that we generated it for you, and you didn't have to write it, which saves everyone time. So now when you take this, one second. So now when you take this, and just to give you a preview, and copy and paste that HTML into your web page, now it's taken that image that I just sent to myself and has created this custom Street View panorama that should look pretty familiar in terms of that interactivity and the classic Google Maps navigation over here on the left. And these are the beautiful mountains in Wyoming. Anyway, so this is a relatively new feature, but I see huge potential here just kind of for immersive maps, breaking news on the ground, certainly travel features, if there's any travel feature writers here. Anyway, I like to demo it and kind of just show you, we're really making tools much easier to use and that require you to kind of dig into code less and less, so kind of just providing templates for you. But certainly, if you are familiar with code, you could take this and further customize it with additional HTML and JavaScript if you like. Any questions on Photosphere? Yes?
What about any routes, hiking, traveling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could definitely use that for, you mean using Photosphere to...
How can I build my own routes, hiking?
So...
Cycling, do you have any answer for other websites that use the same?
So you could take one pano, but we don't give you the ability to stitch them to, well, you could stitch them together. You'd have to do a bunch of programming for that too.
No, I mean,
Is that what you mean?
Building my own routes.
Oh, so just building a map with routes on them?
Yeah. Do you have any maps that I can find to just search on your web?
So you want to build a custom route map?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could do that. Actually, what would be a good one to do for that is to take that map. You can actually like take a GPS device and take the GPS file and import that into Google Earth, which is what we're just about to talk about, and build a really interesting dynamic view. Do you want me to? Does that sound good?
I do it with my Garmin, the GPS.
Yes.
But can I do it by myself on Google Maps? Without...
There's no good way for you to capture. We don't have an app for you capturing those routes, if that's what you're asking. So if you're using a Garmin device, you could take that, and we do have tools to let you import that and overlay them on our maps. But if we segue to Google Earth here, how many of you have used Google Earth before? Excellent. And did you fly to your home and you open it? Okay, good. We all do that. So I think that there's a lot of great features for storytellers and journalists like yourselves, even beyond flying to your home. And I will get back to the cycling routes in a second when I show some of the features here. Google Earth is great if you just want to fly anywhere in the world and essentially have a visual for your story. So if you have nothing at all for your story, you could fly anywhere and have a piece of satellite imagery to complement that. And case in point, what you're looking at is the gas facility in Algeria where the hostage crisis took place earlier last year. I'm trying to think of what year it is. So as that news was breaking, there's no news helicopter on standby in the middle of the Algerian desert. So lots of news outlets were using Google Earth to help visually tell this story. Where are we in the world? Where is this happening? Where is this breaking? This is across television and web and print. And maybe you guys saw a couple uses of this. I also wanted to mention that the imagery you're looking at, when you open Google Earth while that story was breaking, our imagery was from about 2006. And that is actually a case where our team will work with the Google imagery team, who then works with our satellite imagery providers. We work with third-party commercial providers to get up-to-date, fresh satellite imagery for these breaking news stories just to send to you guys. It takes a while to update our base map in Google Maps and Google Earth, so we actually just only send it to you via that mailing list I mentioned at the very, very beginning of my talk. And so how do we send that to you? So this is actually the new imagery we got a couple days after the event happened. We got it in-house. We send it to you via a Google Drive folder, so you can just download high-resolution images that we take for you. Or we send you the imagery file, and what you're looking at is the Google Earth interface. So you can actually open that imagery file and start customizing and creating your own maps with it. And what you're looking at here is a piece of imagery for Sochi Olympic Village. So that was another one where we were waiting for the construction of the buildings, of the venues to take place. And Digital Globe, one of our big providers, sent us that fresh imagery in early January. And then again, we sent that out to you guys on the mailing list, so you can use it, for your stories. So here's the Sochi imagery, and we also got updated imagery of the ski slopes as well. And here's another one that we have for Kiev, again via Digital Globe, just showing a scene on the ground from February 24th. And related to sending you guys fresh satellite imagery for those big breaking news events, another great feature to complement that is the historical imagery in Google Earth. So you can actually go back in time and check out the archives that we have from past years. So great for time-lapse views. You're looking at Sochi in 2010, or looking at the Olympic Village in 2010. And so lots of folks took that imagery from our past several years and kind of showed time-lapse views of the construction of the village, for instance. On the topic, I showed you really quickly our crisis maps. So the crisis team also, when they're responding to an event, they also work with our providers to collect post-event imagery. So in this case, you're looking at Hurricane Sandy. We had a lot of before and after imagery that, again, we sent to the mailing list. We sent Google Drive photo albums. And then you could also open that in Google Earth and kind of do what you want with it. So people were doing those kind of classic before and after time sliders on their websites. This is just another one also for the typhoon in the Philippines, got updated imagery and sent that around to you guys so you could kind of visualize the after event, the days after. I mentioned our map kind of as a canvas, and think of it very much like that. I like to show this example. The Guardian, they, for the Boston Marathon explosions, they kind of took still images of Google Earth imagery and then put that into what I'm guessing is probably Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop and just overlaid their own fonts and styles on top of it to kind of fit obviously the look and feel of the Guardian. So that's just kind of one example for you. I also wanted to mention, so you guys you might have flown to a city in Google Earth and saw the 3D buildings that are in Google Earth. Do you remember that? So those buildings in the past were hand modeled individually by both people at Google as well as very passionate users that we love very dearly. And so, but the problem with that was we couldn't really scale it. We got like 100 Eiffel Towers, but not the buildings next to it, if you will. So we're starting to process our imagery in a brand new way. It's our new 3D imagery. So we're capturing entire cityscapes. So it's a new level of detail. So I mentioned this, on the left that's New York and on the right that's Zurich. I flew through Zurich to get here, so I was checking it out. Anyway, it's hard to tell, but I encourage you, we have hundreds of cities launched already and trying to kind of roll out even more. But it's sort of a new level of detail that I think looks really great for your infographics and the stuff that you guys are working on. This is just one during the Papal Conclave. The Washington Post, Rome is one of our 3D imagery cities, and they kind of just took a still grab and then kind of just made an infographic with it, went in print as well as online. So there's there's another feature that's really great. This is great, I think, for television broadcasters, if anyone's working in TV, or video journalists. And that is the movie making functionality in Google Earth. So when you flew to your house and you did that zoom, sorry. Oh, no. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, video producer. Yes.
You have 5 minutes.
Yes, saw that. So when you flew to your house, someone called it the googly swoop the other day, and I like that term. You can actually record that animation as an HD movie file. So you can take that and drop that into, a Final Cut or an iMovie, or if you're working in Premiere, and kind of build your video package with that animation. So anyway, there's huge possibilities for that, and there's tons and tons of examples. I don't have any time to show you, unfortunately. But anyway, so that's another feature of Google Earth. Just as we start wrapping up the session, I always get questions about permissions and what everyone's allowed to do with our maps. So the bottom line is we have free and we have enterprise versions of our products. So notwithstanding the cost of some of those enterprise features, it's free to use our maps in your coverage. So if you're using a Google Earth video on TV, that's free to do. If you're using that Sochi Olympic Village imagery in a web article, that's also free to do, and you don't need our explicit permission to do that. We just ask that you make sure to attribute that data properly. So making sure that both Google and any data provider we use for that imagery, that map data, is also living in a caption or very, next to the imagery. And if you go to google.com/permissions, that is a whole guide for you on how to do that. But if you ever have questions about that, you can always email me at mediatools@google.com, and I'm happy to clarify that for you. I'd rather you be out using our maps and not being, nervous to use them because you might, think you might be breaking a copyright rule. Yes?
Printing the maps on books.
And books?
Yeah.
Depends how many images you want to use. If it's an image on every page in a 500-page book, no. So you can't use them in guidebooks. But if you're writing an academic paper or you're using a book and you just want to use a piece of satellite imagery, that's fine with us. Just making sure that, again, it's attributed properly. Yes?
Support. How do we get support?
Support? In what way?
I'm running a national project in bird watching. I can be a really significant content provider for Google. But we don't have the resources to learn everything and to do it properly.
Yeah, so let me hear. So our team, Nick and I, provide support. So if you ever have any questions about how to use our tools, and I can't build the map for you, unfortunately.
We're actually looking for a partner, that's it. But I know that Google works with partners.
Let's talk about it afterwards, just to make sure that we can, come see me afterwards and we can talk about it. Was there another question? Oh, sorry? Oh, the email, yes. It's just media tools, MEDIA tools @google.com. Here's that Google site again. And here's also that mailing list that I mentioned where we send breaking news imagery and new crisis maps that we launch that I shared very briefly at the beginning. It's just g.co/Google Media Alerts. But if you miss any of these links, just email me at mediatools@google.com. I'm happy to send materials along to you guys. Yes?
Google Media Alerts says I need permission to access.
Google Media Alerts. So you should be able to go, and it's a public list. You just need to sign into your Google account. So once you sign in, there should be a button at the top that says Apply to Join Group. And then that just means that when I have your email and I accept you into it, you'll get alerts sent to your inbox. That's all that means. But you can go on there right now and kind of see what we've sent in the past, see if it's something that's of interest to you. Any more? Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me, guys.